Hey, what's going on? Mikey Bananas from the Grown Man Record Night channel here to jump on a little thread. A new channel I found, Jazz Bombs, which is a pretty cool channel. It's three cats that get together and like they have a collective that they do like live streams, but they also do their own solo breakout stuff on there. I think it's a pretty cool idea to have like a collective channel like that. I can't remember anybody else doing that before, so that's really cool. I'll leave a link for those guys, so check them out. But they started this jazz label challenge, so show a record from the big four jazz labels as well as show another one from any other label you want to. I think it's a pretty cool thread. You know, if you're not familiar with our channel here, I mean, core values of Grown Man Record Night are built around jazz and funk records. We've gotten away from that here recently, and I've kind of been neglecting jazz, to be honest with you. We played a lot more metal and punk and stuff of recent, but don't get it twisted, man. The jazz and funk vibe is really where the channel started, and that's what it was all based on. Jazz was a big part of my childhood, and you'll find out why if you don't know coming up. But just wanted to show these, and I also wanted to mention that, you know, you can spend a lot of money on jazz records nowadays, and there's some really expensive reissues, and if you're an OG guy, that's also an expensive hobby. But I think, I didn't do this on purpose, but I think there's not a record in here that I spent more than $6 on, which is kind of crazy because there's some fairly heavy hitters in here, you know. But let's jump into it. So for the first one, I wanted to show something on Riverside. It's the slackest in my collection. I don't have the most stuff from Riverside. Not a huge pool to choose from. I did have some Monk and stuff, but I decided to go with Cannonball Adderley Quintet, Them Dirty Blues. 1960s, got his brother Nat on it. Bobby Timmons, Barry Harris, Sam Jones, who I really love, and Lou Hayes on this. And it's not something I reach for all the time, but I really dig Work Song, the first track, and Del Sasser, I guess I'm saying that right, which is a Sam Jones track. Really cool stuff. It kind of bops and grooves along. I wouldn't say it's outstanding, but it's just a real bopper. I mean, it's good. It's good. Don't get me wrong. It's just not something I reach for very often, and I don't know why I forget about that record. I think because I played Cannonball stuff really early on in my collecting days, and I don't want to say I'm tired of it, but I just don't find myself going back and digging for it, you know. Moving right along. Oh man. On the Prestige label, 1957, Gene Ammons. Funky. Man, what a lineup here. Gene Ammons, Art Farmer, Jackie McLean, Mel Waldron, Kenny Burrell on guitar here, Doug Watkins, and Art Taylor. And boy, let me tell you what, Kenny Burrell really sets this record on absolute fire. Standout tracks for me is Funky, the title track, and King Size. King Size is the one, these pick them up and put them down, man. I'm in love with this record, and it's not in the best of shape, but it gets it down the road, man. And I think I paid 75 cents for that at a Goodwill, actually. And it's so killer. So killer. The big one, Blue Note. I mean, you could have pulled. I got some more modern Blue Note reissue stuff, and I love, which I love. But I went for this one because I was trying to find things that people weren't gonna, you know, go right down the middle, and maybe some stuff that's, if we all collectively try not to show things that other people have shown, maybe we can learn some stuff. You know what I mean? I know I've already learned by watching some of these videos. So for Blue Note, again, one that's not in the best of shape. Think by Lonnie Smith. Oh my God. I love me some key. I love me a Hammond B3, baby. And Lonnie Smith does it just as good as anybody, if not the absolute best. What a killer record, man. Let's see who else is on this. Lee Morgan's on this. David Newman. Is that David Fathead Newman? I believe it is. Melvin Sparks. Marion Booker. 1968. Really funky jamming record, man. And man, I love some like kind of overmodulated Hammond B3 sound. Woo, boy, it does something to me. I'm a big Les McCann guy, and it's kind of that same vibe. That's something about when you record a Hammond B3, it does this kind of weird overmodulated thing, and it's a killer record. And you know, of all the Blue Notes, that's the one I pulled. I wanted to highlight that one. Going to Impulse next, man, I would be remiss. Like I said, I tried not to be ham-fisted and go right down the middle with everything, but man, how can you not show Coltrane for Impulse? And honestly, I live in High Point, North Carolina. This is where John Coltrane grew up. There's a statue of him downtown. We got one of his pianos and some of his compositions in a little museum here in town. He spent like his adolescent and high school years here. He went to high school here. And so I wanted to play this, and it brought me to another point. This is a new thing at Newport, Coltrane and Shep. Now, this is live. 65. It's got sets from the Newport shit by both of those guys on it, and it's just 4 days after they recorded Ascension, which Shep is on that as well. But you know, the point when I was listening to this and I was like, God, dog, how much I love this record. It made me think that as much as we noodle and think about these, you know, the best possible pressings and sound quality that comes out of some of these jazz reissues and some of the originals and stuff, which I love that shit too. I think oftentimes things that get overlooked are live recordings. And if you want to hear like John Coltrane being freaking John Coltrane, what better way than a live recording? Somebody like in their element, the essence, the absolute essence of John Coltrane with just a hot freaking mic in front of you. And he is, dude, going to absolute town on this record. Way out there, bonkers stuff. But it's funny, I don't think the live jazz records get as much hype as these like super pristine, high fidelity audiophile presses of like the studio stuff. But you know, ain't no redos when you're on the stage at Newport. You know what I mean? It's just it's a hit it and quit it, baby. So I think that's the best example of my favorite is Les McCann live at Montreux. You know, talking about an overmodulated keys. And you get some of you guys know that, but like that one's an absolute smoker, and I don't hear it get talked about too often either. And finally, I said I wasn't going to be ham-fisted about it, but I'm going to be ham-fisted about it. So we're talking about any label we could, you want to, other than the big four for the final record. And, you know, I'm sure people are going to pull out, you know, the smaller, lesser-known records, boutique stuff that nobody knows about, and I'm really interested to see some of that. But I started thinking, like, who makes some of the best jazz that I like? And maybe it's just on the fact of sheer volume, but the answer is probably Atlantic. I mean, Atlantic and Blue Note have, well, Impulse too, but nevertheless, Atlantic has such a core monster group of jazz pressings that led me to believe they're like, I said, God, I have to show like an Atlantic or something, but I'm going to do something similar, but not that. And I'll never shy away from an opportunity to hype people about this record, because I've never seen anybody else show this other than me, and I've been doing it for 10 years. It's not Atlantic. It's Epic. It's the Dave Bailey Quintet, 2 Feet in the Gutter. Now, this is the final record that Dave Bailey did for Epic, and first of all, I love this cover. This is also where I came up with the idea of like when I was, you know, young in jazz, and I knew even less than I do now. But if there's an African-American gentleman on the back smoking a cigarette and a black and white picture, I'm going to buy it without even batting a freaking eye. But I really love 2 Feet in the Gutter, the title track, and my favorite is a song called Coffee Walk. He brought a couple of new players in on this one, and a really interesting fact that when he retired, which is not too long after this, like from jazz, which is kind of crazy, Dave Bailey went on to become a flight instructor. He was an Air Force guy, and when he left jazz, he went to be a flight instructor. Pretty nutty. And it's on Epic, and so Epic is like, it's funny because Epic originally, and I didn't realize this, I looked this up when I was looking up some of this stuff today. Epic was a subsidiary of Columbia, and they released stuff on Epic that they didn't think was quite mainstream enough to be released on the major label, and so they released it on the Epic imprint. And you know, after this, they became known to be doing a lot of rock records and stuff, and that's what they became known for. But you know, a lot of people don't think of Epic as a jazz label, but man, let me tell you what, Dave Bailey, 2 Feet in the Gutter, you can never go wrong with that shit right there. I appreciate you guys checking out this video, and thanks for the Jazz Bums for throwing this out there. The Jazz Label Challenge. It's a hashtag Jazz Label Challenge. Be sure to check them out. Give them a sub if it's your cup of tea. And we'll see you next time on Grown Man Record Night. Peace.